This is Glass City Humanist, a show about humanism, humanist values, by a humanist. Here is your host, Douglas Berger.
In this episode, we talk to the well-known and respected Dr. PZ Myers about the war on science, spiders, and why we shouldn't put heroes on pedestals, including PZ himself.
Glass City Humanist is an outreach project of the secular humanists of Western Lake Erie, building community through compassion and reason for a better tomorrow. If you live in the greater Toledo, Ohio area and are looking for a humanist community, then please check us out. You can reach our group at humanistswle.org or from a link on our website, glasscityhumanist.show.
With us today is PZ Myers. He is a biologist and associate professor at the University of Minnesota Morris. He co-founded the Free Thought Blog Network, which is the home to his personal blog, Pharyngula, that has a mix of science and social justice, and frequently both at the same time. He is currently studying spiders, and he really hates Tuesdays and Thursdays this semester. Thank you for being with us today, Dr. Myers.
Glad to be here. Yeah.
The first question I had for you is, how and why did you get involved with blogging? Because you were a longtime blogger, but how did you get involved with it?
Yeah, that's ancient history. No, I got involved with it because I live in Morris, Minnesota, which is very remote. We're way out on the western edge of Minnesota, very rural country, at a small university. And so I initially set it up because I wanted to be able to talk to people who shared my interests. I mean, there's some here. It's a liberal arts university, so of course we get along just fine. But you don't have the breadth of differences that we do on the internet. So that's where it started.
Okay. And what does Pharyngula mean?
Yeah, it's at the time I started it, I was working on zebrafish, and the particular stage I'm interested in zebrafish is this particular point in time when they're setting up the fundamental spatial information of the embryo, and they're beginning to develop organs. They've got, the framework is being put in place, and that happens to be a stage called the Pharyngula stage. So it's an announcement that, I'm interested in developmental biology, and also that nobody's ever going to be able to pronounce this. I am so surprised it got as popular as it did.
And as I mentioned in your introduction, you teach biology to college students. What's it like being exposed to these many years of religious conservatives' war against science? What's it like in the classroom? Has it taken hold, or are they at least a little bit smarter than that? Or
oh yeah, they're definitely smarter than that. No, it's this is really a battle from the outside trying to get in. That like I said, this is a small rural town, so there's plenty of churches and very conservative churches. And they hate the idea of teaching evolution. They occasionally bring in creationist speakers at their church events and so forth. But it's just not affecting the classroom because the students are here to learn. And they want to learn the best science that's out there. And it's not creationism. I occasionally get a student who's kind of leaning creationist, who's been brought up with it, for instance. But they either learn pretty quickly that that's not compatible with the science, the evidence, the observations, the experiments, and they either drop out or become English majors, or they learn that, and then they learn better that you're not going to get anywhere with creationism.
And we see that the current battle recently is between beleaguered school board members and parents who do their own research to oppose mask mandates and vaccines What do you think that we can do to stamp down that kind of action or attempt it?
I wish I knew. No, but this has been the same situation. It's been like for 40 years, that probably longer, but that's before my time. That all the action has been going on at the level of, for instance, school boards. That what's going on is that you've got all these teachers who are sensible and informed and wise, and they're doing the right thing in the classroom. And then you got these clowns coming in and taking over school boards and trying to tell the teachers what to do. A great example was the Kitzmiller trial. That was a case where the teachers are doing the best they can. They're teaching the real science. And then you get a couple of wacky school board members who are very conservative and who think intelligent design is a new idea with lots of backing behind it. And they try to force that on the teachers, and they objected. It was teachers who brought that trial to court because they were not going to stand for this crap.
And it was some of those teachers too were Christians, Bible believing Christians, and they still objected to it, which I found hard.
Oh yeah, yes, and some of the best testimonies at the trial was like Ken Miller getting up there, and he's a Christian. That you can actually be a Christian and not be stupid. That ought to be the message we get out there. But the creationists are telling the opposite. They're saying, oh, yeah, in order to be a good believer in Jesus, you got to leave your brain at the door when it comes to science.
And why do you think, in your personal opinion, why do you think protecting the public health has become so political?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. You didn't tell me you were going to ask hard questions. It's personally, I think a lot of it is because we have created a media environment that tolerates, encourages misinformation. That we have, Fox News, we have Blaze TV, we have, all these different outlets. We have all these think tanks that are backing it with millionaires and billionaires pumping money into it, all to train people to accept the most outrageous nonsense, that they are being trained to swallow whatever conspiracy theory comes out of a rich man's mouth. And that has repercussions, obviously. And you could imagine that it starts off with people with sincere religious beliefs who want to see those religious beliefs promoted. But eventually it gets to the point where, I was reading where they're recently coming out now with pro-smoking initiatives, trying to get people to believe that it's okay to smoke again. That by undermining science and medicine, you have suddenly got a way to make a lot of money selling, for instance, water as a medicine. And horse paste and who knows what else. Yeah. So, it's largely, I think, driven by media and misinformation.
Now, everybody knows if they've read your blog and met you in person that you are an atheist.
Definitely.
How did you come about to become an atheist? Was it because you got into the hard sciences, or was there a particular incident that led you astray, as it were?
There were multiple incidents, actually. I mean, it wasn't like there was a come to non-Jesus moment or something. Rebecca Watson just came out with this really interesting video about it, where they point out that one of the major factors is, family, the people you know. Do they actually walk the walk, or do they just treat religion and church going as, the thing that you do without really believing? And I think I could say that, that was a contributing factor to me, that my parents despite being nominally involved in particular churches, didn't really believe. Didn't, it's a social thing. You're supposed to go to church, so you go, and then you discover, well, your mom and dad don't really believe it that much. That was one factor, is just this erosion of this belief that it was a required thing to believe in God. But other events, I've recounted this in some of my writing about one of the most traumatic things for me was Apollo 8. That was the mission that went around the moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was on Christmas. And Christmas is presents and good food and all that kind of stuff. And my family all gathered around the television to listen to the astronauts read from the Bible. And here I must have been 10 or 11 years old, and I'm listening to this and thinking that this is a total waste of time. You're at the moon. Come on. This is where you talk about science and you get me excited about the cool geology, or whatever you call lunar geology, and talk about space and all this great stuff. And instead you're pulling out this ancient bit of poetry that's not even relevant. And some of my family members were all, ooh, ah, that's so sweet, that's wonderful, and I'm just gagging on it. And that was a distinct memory for me, that it was one of those events that led me to become an anti-theist more than just an atheist, is seeing how this was poisoning the stuff I really cared about.
Yeah, there was the other day, our state historical society had a picture up from 1969. It was Neil Armstrong. It was what was it? Like a public gathering in Wapakoneta, his hometown, and they were it was at the fairgrounds, and it was a big party. Thousands of people were there, and it was hosted by Bob Hope, who's originally from the Cleveland area, and had Ed McMahon. And then in the caption it said Dr. Albert Sabin was there. And I was like, why was Dr. Albert Sabin at this party? And here, come to find out, because I did a little reading, was that he did his initial research on his polio vaccine at Cincinnati's Children's Hospital. And so I'm like, that would I don't think that would happen today, where they would have some big event like that and honor a scientist like that because of this anti-intellectualism view that they have today. And
if they did, there would be protesters out with really stupid signs.
Right. Maybe Westboro would show up or something. Who knows?
Uh-huh.
The other thing that I wanted to get into also, one of the topics, continual topics that you talk about on your blog, is that you are known for calling out terrible people in the free thought community for being terrible. And at one point you had been sued by somebody that had been called out. You yourself hadn't. You just kind of reported what had happened, and they sued you too.
Yes. Yes.
Why do you think that the problem of terrible people in our community just doesn't seem to want to go away? You seem to find them keep coming up and sprouting up again.
Right. It's the same problem that I think that religious people have, is that you put somebody up on a pedestal and then you refuse to ever consider the possibility that they may have flaws. You just don't want to do that. Everyone's got to be perfect up there. So what that means is then that you've got this concerted effort by the community to consciously ignore the bad things that are going on. And as skeptics, as humanists, as atheists, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be, it would be nice if you could call out somebody for their bad behavior, and it doesn't mean that you set them on fire and throw them in a ditch somewhere. It means that that behavior is repudiated by everyone involved, and the perpetrator, wakes up and notices that, oh yeah, I've been doing this wicked, nasty thing, and I've got these really bad attitudes, and I should work on fixing them. They never seem to. It's more, yeah, yes, it was perfectly okay that I raped children when I was young. I've gotten better since, they say, but it was, no, you can't complain about pedophilia. That seems to be one of the more common sorts of excuses they make. So, or they pretend that they didn't know about it, that all the people who were associated with Jeffrey Epstein, for instance, there have been a number of them who, prominent scientists who were involved in this. And as far as I know, not a single one of them has stepped up and said, oh, I was wrong to do that I shouldn't have done that. Wait, excuse me. There is one George Church actually came out and said, that was a mistake. It shouldn't have happened, and I will do my best not to ever have it happen again. But all the other people, no, I didn't know about that. He was a good guy.
Yeah, there was that photo with Lawrence Krauss and Steven Pinker and Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. Yeah, and Krauss is one of the worst who made the most horrible excuse I've ever heard for this by saying that, all the women I saw him hanging out with were over 21. And I don't believe that he carded them all.
No, I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure that was just, it was clearly this interesting self-rationalization that he was doing, that they were supposed to have been over 21, therefore they were over 21. Never mind that Epstein was busily objectifying them all. It doesn't mean that when you turn 21, all of a sudden you're fair game, right? Yeah.
Hello, this is Douglas, host of the Glass City Humanist. Would you like to hear more from our episode? Check out our Ko-fi page and donate or become a member to see exclusive bonus content. That's ko-fi.com/Glass City Humanist. You teach on a college campus, and there's been a steady stream of reports recently talking about the myth of cancel culture. Do you see any of that in your neck of the woods, or do you have an opinion on that myth?
Do I have an opinion? That's a silly question. Yes, I have opinions. I have lots of opinions, and I'm not shy about sharing them. Do I see it? Well, not really, because the cancel culture that people are complaining about is largely a fiction. That what cancel culture is holding people accountable for what they say and do. That's really all it really means is, yeah, we're not going to overlook that behavior that you engaged in last week. So in that sense, yeah, I see it all the time that, we have students who do the right thing for instance, several years ago, the University of Minnesota was roiled because Condoleezza Rice was invited to be a speaker. And quite a few of our students noted, Condoleezza Rice is kind of a war criminal. Why are we inviting her to speak on campus? And then it was discovered that she's getting paid like $100,000 for her appearance.
Wow.
Yeah. That ought to set everybody on fire. Is why are we spending so much money on this horrible person to come speak? But the fact that some of our students protested and refused to go and boycotted and everything, that was treated as cancel culture. Okay, then I wholeheartedly approve of cancel culture. We should do more of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's some topics and some discussions that we don't need to be having again and again and again, particularly when
Right.
it talks about racism and sexism. And, that's, to me, those are not debatable issues.
Correct. Yeah. That, I've got transgender friends who have made this good point, is that why should we encourage people to debate whether we are human or not? The humanity of these people is not in question. Yet we have this growing movement, the TERFs or the gender criticals or whatever, who are jumping on this and basically trying to make human beings illegal. That's another term we also apply to people who weren't born in this country and migrate here, is suddenly they're illegals. There's no such thing as an illegal human being.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that's the main thing that I like to try to get across to people, is that everybody has some basic dignity and worth that they have. And people shouldn't be deciding whether or not they deserve equal treatment or help or things like that. It should come from just being human.
Right. And, I lived through the Reagan years and, the 80s, 90s, the early 2000s, when people were basically persecuting gay folk,
Mm-hmm.
just saying, they deserve what they get. That gay disease is Jesus's curse on them, and horrible, horrible things like that. And I think we're a little bit behind that now.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. I can think of a few prominent people on the right who still think that way, but that's something that we ought not to reward with speaking gigs on college campuses. Just, we're done with that. They're all people. Let's just, if you want to argue with that, you're not going to do it here.
I noticed when following your blog and checking out your public posts and your YouTube channel, that you're currently studying spiders, but you previously studied zebrafish. Why did you change it? Why did you change up?
There's a lot of reasons. If you'd followed my blog for long, I also have an obsession with cephalopods. I'm really interested in creatures that deviate from what we think of as the norm. We're very human-centric, very vertebrate-centric, and zebrafish, of course, are vertebrates. And I don't want to encourage us to think that way, that we should always be appreciating the diversity of nature and all the different solutions that have evolved. So I use cephalopods as my exercise. Whenever I read a dozen papers about fish, take a moment, go read a paper about octopus, right?
Right.
It just broadens the mind. And then I just realized, hey, I'm in landlocked Minnesota. There are no cephalopods anywhere near me. I can dream about working on them, but I can't do a thing with them. And so I started casting about for other organisms that would be entertaining to explore, and discovered a number of papers by people who were studying Peristeatoda, this house spider, as a model organism. And it sounded really interesting. They're asking interesting questions. And also, I could go out to my garage and collect a whole bunch of these. And then there are easy protocols for raising them in the lab. So I thought, yay, I should be doing this. So that was one motivation behind the switch. The other is increasing concern about the environment that you've noticed. Global warming, all this climate change going on. There's an insect apocalypse going on right now. So what I saw also was an opportunity to look at local fauna and see what's going on locally, right here in my neighborhood, and ask what's going on. My very first project with these spiders was I proposed that we study spiders as a proxy for the larger community of insects that are out there, because spiders are almost all entirely predators on arthropods, other insects. And other insects I was not going to get into because there's just too many of them, right? They're too different. I can't possibly comprehend all that taxonomy, so I'd have to wade through. But you can use spiders as a proxy, because if something is depleting the population of insects, the spiders are going to feel it. And if by studying spiders, you can get a handle on that. So yeah, that was my first project. I got a group of students together, and we sort of canvassed our local community, visiting garages and shacks and houses, and just asking what spiders are present here and getting a count. And then the plan was we'd come back in the next year and the year after that and repeat the same process. And then we get a picture of how are the spider populations faring here in Western Minnesota. And then this stupid pandemic comes along.
Yeah.
And suddenly it is not cool to go visit strangers' homes.
Yeah, I guess not.
Even if you're doing something as weird as looking at their spiders, suddenly it's a bad idea. And also, it's a bad idea to get your students and drag them out to all these houses. And so that project got put on the back burner. And I'm hoping that people will get smart and everyone will take the vaccine and we can end the pandemic so I can go count spiders again next summer. That's the real reason I want everybody to get vaccinated. Okay. So I can get
count
this
spiders.
Project going. Yes.
All right. Well, as we wrap up this interview here, I usually give a minute to my interviewee to go ahead and take the microphone. And if you have something to promote or something that you want to get people to know, the takeaway from what we've talked about today, feel free.
Okay. The takeaways, I would say, this has been an ongoing theme in all of my writing, is that science is important, but it's still got to take into account social factors, that we're working with human beings and you got to appreciate the complexity of human interactions. So social justice plus science forever. Okay, that's one thing. Then the other is, of course, you already mentioned it. I should plug Free Thought Blogs. So we've got this network of bloggers that we put together. It's been 10 years now, and we've got something like 30 blogs that are relatively active. And all of them have to be involved in social justice in some way. They're not all science blogs. We got a few science blogs, but main criterion is, are you appreciative of social justice? And we've had a few blogs that got kicked out to loud fanfare because they weren't, that they were pretty bad. And so
I saw a couple of those. Yeah.
I'm sure when they flame out, it gets loud, and we got sued a couple of times. And usually the lawsuits fold because it's really stupid to sue because somebody doesn't want to hang out with you. But that's basically what they were doing. You should check in with freethoughtblogs.com. We're trying to get geared up for the new fad, which is podcasts. So once a month we get a group of us together and we hang out and record we call it a poddish sort of cast because we didn't know what to name it. Is it a podcast? Is it what? I don't know what this is. It's just a bunch of social justice warriors hanging out and chatting.
Oh no.
Yeah. You would never do such a thing. Right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, but I think it's valuable. It's one of the things we've kind of lost in the atheist community over the years was that sense of community, because there were so many deep rifts forming and loud bickering and angry people and so forth. So having a little community podcast, having a network of blogs, that's a way to replace that and hopefully rebuild a community from the ground up.
Okay. Well, again, I thank you, PZ, for your time today, and good luck with your spider research and all of your other endeavors.
Sure. Yeah, I got 150 spiders sitting in the lab right now. So, yeah, they're doing fine. It's some of my projects had to be on hold for a little while.
Thank you for listening. For information about the topics in this episode, please visit the episode page at glasscityhumanist.show. Glass City Humanist is an outreach of the Secular Humanists of Western Lake Erie and is supported in part by a grant by the American Humanist Association. The AHA can be reached at americanhumanist.org. Sholey can be reached at humanists.wle.org. Glass City Humanist is hosted, written, and produced by Douglas Berger, and he is solely responsible for the content. Our theme music is Glass City Jam, composed using the Amplify Studio. See you next time.